everyone, this is Miriam, one half of Project MC Squared. And today I'll be teaching you the basics of crochet. I've got a lot of comments and suggestions to make videos that are more crochet one-on-one and more beginner friendly. As you guys know, if you look through my channel, I have more intermediate tutorials that just basically give the instructions on how to make a certain project. But I've gotten comments from my friends and people around me to make more beginner friendly videos. So today I figured that it'd be a good opportunity to go through the crochet one-on-ones and the basics, like the terminology and the stitches and just the basic things you'll need to know if you want to get into crochet. I've written down some of the terminologies that we'll go over through today and some of the stitches. I've limited the terminology and the stitches to the basic ones because if you were to talk of all the terminologies of crochet, we would be here forever. Same with the stitches as well. There's new stitches always coming out almost every day. You know, you can make your own stitch. And with terminology, it really just spans from so many things. So I figured I'll just go through the basic terminologies as well as the basic stitches that you'll most likely stumble across when you're starting a new project or just projects that are super easy. These are the terminology along the stitches that you'll need to know. And I'll also, I'll probably add a couple here and there if I forget. If I forgot to write them down, I might remember them as I'm doing the video, so I might throw in a new terminology, but I'll make sure to add this back and I'll post this on my Instagram for anybody that needs it. So let's get straight into it. First, you're gonna need some yarn and a hook. If you don't have any yarn or hooks, and this video is really just for to help you get into crocheting and you don't have the materials, that's perfectly fine. I'll be going super slow. And you can just watch this just for future reference when you do get your materials, or if you're thinking about getting your materials, you can also come back to this video and rewatch it. For those who do have the materials and don't really know where to start, this video is perfect and I'll go through just all the basic things. So first you're gonna need some yarn. I have two yarns just to see for color reasons. Some yarn might look different or it might not show as well on camera, so I'll just have these two yarn and see which one I'll stick with as I go through the video. And you'll need a hook. I'm using a 6.5mm hook, but any hook, it doesn't really matter what hook you use for this video, but I will get into what hooks mean as you're crocheting and what different types of sizes of hooks do for your project and how it changes it. So first, let's start with the first terminology that we'll go through, which is a chain. But to do a chain, we'll need to know what a slip knot is because you can't start a project without a slip knot. Well, you can use a magic circle, but we'll get into that later. But a slip knot, just to start off a chain, we'll need to know how to do a slip knot. So let's do that. Let's learn that first. For a slip knot, the first thing you're going to do is you don't need your hook for this. For the slip knot, you're going to need to get your yarn. Make sure the longer piece of yarn that's connected to the ball is on your left hand if you're right-handed. I don't know how it'll work if you're left-handed, but this is just how I do it. And you're going to get your yarn, and you're going to the short piece of the yarn, you're going to go behind your two fingers. So get your two fingers, hold it, and then this short yarn you're going to go behind your two fingers. Your two fingers, and grab it with your thumb. You're going to grab both pieces of the yarn with your thumb. So you're going to have created a circle like this. And then with your long piece of yarn, you're gonna push it through the circle and grab it on the other hand with your right hand and pull on all three sides. So I'll do that again if that was too fast. Get your two fingers, grab on to the working side grab onto the long side of the yarn, and then on the end with the end string you're gonna go behind your two fingers and grab the string with your thumb so you have a circle. Push your two fingers out and you'll see the circle. Then with the working piece you're gonna push it through the circle and grab that piece with your right arm, and then grab both of the yarns, both ends of the yarn, so it's like this, and you're gonna pull specifically on the end. You're gonna pull on the circle and pull on the end piece of the yarn, and that is your slip knot. I hope that was slow enough. If it wasn't, you can always go back, slow it down. That's how you do your slip knot. Let's check that off. So we have learned how to do a slip knot. Now we're gonna learn how to do a chain. So for a chain, you're gonna keep that slip knot. You'll need that slip knot to do a chain. And you're gonna get your hook, and you're gonna stick your hook inside the circle. Then, for tension reasons, tension is basically how tight you're chaining or how tight you're holding your yarn. You're gonna pull on the long string that's connected to the rest of the yarn. You're gonna pull on it to make the circle smaller. It doesn't have to be super tight to the point to where it's like this. It's right on the hook. Make sure that you leave some space so that it's easier to work with. It doesn't have to be like a super big like space like this, but just enough to where it's like comfortable. And then for the chain, I'm gonna go super slow because I know for me it took a week to learn how to just chain. But for the chain, basically you're gonna go underneath the yarn so that the tooth, I'm gonna call this the tooth of the yarn, is gonna basically hold the yarn. So let me show you my posture on how I hold the yarn. Everybody has different postures, but this is how I hold my yarn. So I grab the long yarn, and I go underneath the long yarn with my pointer. So it's like this. I'm gonna go again. I grab the long yarn, but with my pointer, I go underneath that yarn. So it's like this. Like this, and then this. And you can always pull on the long yarn if you want more tighter fill. And then with my middle finger and my thumb, I hold the short piece of the yarn. Again, I'll show it this way too. Go over the last 3 fingers, but go behind my pointer finger to hold the yarn. And then my middle and thumb finger hold the short piece of the yarn. And then this is the posture I use. Everybody has different, but this is the posture that I find the most comfortable for me. And then to chain, you're gonna go underneath the yarn. Make sure it's underneath the tooth. I'm gonna turn the hook so that it's facing down, so that the tooth isn't facing you and it's facing down, and pull through. And that is your first chain. I'll do it again. Make sure you're not just putting the yarn over and trying to chain. You're not going to chain. It's just not going to work. You need to turn the hook. So yarn over, turn your hook, make sure it's still underneath, and pull through. That's your first chain. Then you're going to do it again. So yarn over the hook, turn your hook, and then push through. And that is your second chain. You can see the chains. We just made 2, and I'll do it again. Yarn over the hook, turn. Make sure you don't slip and let go of the yarn when you're turning. Make sure you have a good grip. Turn the hook and push through. If the circle when you're pushing through is too small, you can always just lift your hook to make the circle bigger. That's why I said in the beginning, make sure it's not super tight, because say it's super tight the circle, I can't really chain through. I can only pull through. So you need to make sure there's some space, and then yarn over the hook, turn the hook down, turn the hook over, and push through. Now, you can see that our chains, we've created 1, 2, 3, I think 4. You can see the chains. Now you can see that it's kind of not uniform. You can see in the beginning, you can see the different tension. You can see the tension by looking at the sides. Do you see how the first 2 chains are kind of bigger, and then the second 2 are a little more smaller, because my tension was different. Now, if basically the tension is how hard I'm holding this yarn and how big the circle is. So if it's like a really big circle, I'll show you what it looks like. It's a really big circle here. I'll make it even bigger circle so it shows how different it looks. Do you see this? See how different it looks? How big the circle changes the tension? Because now it's a really big chain. But if I go like really close to the circle and make the circle really small, chain like this, you see the difference. I'll chain again just so you can see the, but you can see the difference in tension. This is when the circle was really like far away from my hook, too far. And then this is when the circle was really close to my hook. You have to make sure that you have a consistent grip as you're chaining so that you don't have weird tension like this where the chains are different sizes. The chains are basically just the little braids, I guess, but this is a chain right here, 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 just the chains that we made. So that's how you chain. For me, I'm at the point where I could just chain like this, but that takes time. It took me a week to learn how to chain. So if you can't do this, which is probably why you're watching this video, don't feel bad. It's okay. Like it's really okay. The fact that if you can just chain right now and you're just starting crocheting, you should give yourself a pat on the back. You're better than me because I could not chain for a week. But yes, this is how you chain. Again, yarn over the hook, turn the hook, push through. And turning chain is really important, so we're gonna learn what that is. So a turning chain is basically, the name kind of gives it away, but it's a chain that you use to turn your work over. So what does it mean to even turn your work over? So when you're starting a project, after you've chained, I won't redo the chain, I'll just keep like this. After you've chained, you're going to go back into the chain to do whatever you want to do. So say we're making like just a big piece of just crochet with just different stitches, just keep going back and forth. You're gonna need to go back into the chain that we just made, but you're gonna need a turning chain so that the height matches up. And what does that mean? Okay, the height of the different stitches vary. So for example, if you're doing a double stitch, which I will explain what that is, a double crochet, the height of that double crochet compared to the height of a single crochet are totally different. So if we're going back into this chain with a single crochet, you're gonna need to chain 1. That will be your turning chain. Make sure you know this is the turning chain, and then you're gonna go back into this chain underneath it with a single crochet. So don't worry about what this is yet, I'll explain it in a second. But so you see how it's uniform because of the turning chain. So the turning chain basically acts like a single crochet. It's the same height as a single crochet. So if I want to go back into the chain that we just made, you'll do a chain 1 for single crochets. But say I wanted to go back with a double crochet, then I'll have to chain 2 because a double crochet is a little taller than a single crochet. And then you're gonna go into a double crochet and chain back into that last chain you made before the turning chain. And look. It's uniform again. Because the two chains act like a double crochet. So that is your turning chain. The turning chain is the chain that you make that is the same height as the chains that you're going to use. So for single crochets and half double crochets, I always chain 1, but for double crochets I always chain 2, and then for triple crochets I chain 3, and I'll get into what those mean. So now we know what a turning chain is. And like I said, the more I go into this and I finish off this chain, the more I go into this and finish it off, if I go all the way down, this would be considered my foundation chain. It's the first chain. It's the stitches that is in the first chain that we made that will be considered our foundation chain. So we can mark that off. as well. We know what a foundation chain is. So I'll just continue all the way down, all the way down, all the way down, and then that whole thing will be considered a foundation chain. That's what we're going to use. That will look like that will help us continue with the project that we have going on. We'll go into the different stitches. A stitch is basically the type of pattern that you use to go into your chains. So if you're gonna go chain in, over, out, over again, like those type of things. So we're gonna get into stitches, and we're gonna start off with a single crochet. So a single crochet, you might want to write this down, is through the front loop, so this loop right here. Because if you look, there's two loops. There's the front loop and the back loop, which is this one right here. So if you pull it apart, you can see the two loops. One, this loop right here, and this loop right here. You're gonna go through this for the top loop right here. Go in, yarn over the hook, like when you're chaining, and then pull through. So you'll have two loops. Make sure you don't pull all, like just pull through the hole. But you'll have two loops on your hook, and then you're gonna yarn over again, turn the hook down, and pull through both loops. That is a single crochet. I'll do that again. Go through the top loop of the chain, yarn over, pull through the hole, so you'll have two loops on your hook. Then you're gonna yarn over and turn your hook and pull through both for the single crochet. So we can knock that off. We know what a single crochet, how to do a single crochet. Now we'll do a half double crochet. It sounds scary, but it's really easy. So a double crochet is, you're gonna yarn over first, then go through the top loop, then yarn over again and pull through. So you'll have 3 loops on your hook. So pull through the hole. And then you're going to yarn over and pull through all 3. Remember, the tension is very important. Make sure the hole isn't too big, make sure it's not too small, so that you can pull through with ease. So we'll do it again. Yarn over the hook, and then go through the top of the hole. Yarn over again, and then go outside the hole again. Pull out the hole. And then you're going to yarn over, turn the hook, and pull through all 3 of the loops. And that's how you make a half double. So we can take that off, that we know what a half double is. And then now we'll go through to a double crochet. A double crochet is very similar to a half double, hence the name, but there's an extra step that you're gonna do. So you're gonna yarn over again, go through the top of the chain. Remember, the chains are these little things that we made in the beginning. This is a chain, this is a chain, this is a chain. Top of the chain, yarn over, pull through the hole. You're gonna have 3. But when you yarn over again, you're gonna go through 2 loops instead of all 3. So go through the first 2 loops, pull out, yarn over, and then go through the last 2 hoops. And that's a double crochet. I'll do that again. Yarn over, yarn through the top of the chain, yarn over again, yarn outside of the chain. Then you're gonna yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, and then yarn over, and then pull through the last 2 hoops. And that's how you double crochet. If this is going too fast, I apologize. I sincerely apologize. You can go back and slow it down, but that is how you do a double crochet. So we can check that off. Then we'll learn a triple, or in UK terms, a treble crochet. Just a disclaimer, all these terms are in American terms. There are different terms depending on where you're from or where you're learning it from. but these are just all American terms. So a triple, or UK terms, a treble crochet. I'll show you how to do that. It's very similar to a double, but again, there's an extra step. So you see this is a chain as well, but it's extremely small. I don't think I'll be able to do a treble in it, but I'll try. But you see how there's different tensions? The chains should be relatively the same. They should be the same. You're going to yarn over 2 times. So yarn over the first time and yarn over the second time. Then you're going to go to the top of the chain, yarn over again, and then pull out of the top of the chain. So you'll have 4 loops on your hook. Then you're going to yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops again, and then yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops. And that is your triple crochet. I'll do it again. Yarn over 2 times, so yarn over again. Then you're going to go to the top of the chain. I'll show you again. Go to the top of the chain, yarn over and pull out of the chain. Then you're going to yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, then pull through the last 2 loops. And that is how you triple crochet. So we can check that off too. Then we're gonna learn what a slip stitch is. Slip stitch is basically the stitches you're gonna use when you're ending off everything. Or like slip stitch is just the basic that you're gonna need. You're gonna see a lot. You're gonna need to slip stitch a lot. So into this chain right here, you're going to go in to the chain, yarn over, pull outside of the chain, and then pull through that first this loop right here. And that is a slip stitch. I'll take these off so I can show you again. Okay. So slip stitch, very simple, very simple. Go through the top of the chain, yarn over, pull through, and then pull through that hook right there. Pull through that last hook right there. One more time. Yarn inside, hook inside the chain, yarn over, pull through, and then pull through that last hook, and that is a slip stitch. So we have learned what all the stitches are. We've also learned what tension is, but I'll show you again more specifically what different tension makes. So I'll go back into these. I'll do everything a double. I'll do double crochets, and I'll show you one tension, one way that I'm holding it, or one way that I'm holding the yarn, one way that I'm holding the hook, and then I'll show you what it looks like when I make this circle bigger, and I'll go into the chain and do the same exact thing, so you'll see the difference in tension and what that brings. So I'll just do a couple different types of tensions. It's really awkward to do different types of tensions because as you get better at crocheting, you'll realize that tension really isn't a problem anymore. You're just, because it'll feel everything is really uniform. But if you are still new, it's really easy to have your tension off because you're very you're paying attention to everything that you're doing. But as the more advanced you get, the more it just feels like you're just doing it. You're not really focused on tension. Everything is just repeating. So I'll show you what it looks like, what different tension looks like. Now you will see the difference. These were all different stitches. These were all showed all the different stitches, but you see how the tension was the same, so it still looks uniform. But look here, the tension is so off. The way that I like to think about it, the tension is the circle next to your hook. It should be the same. If it's like this for one stitch, it should be the same for the next stitch. If it's like this for one stitch, it should be the same for the next stitch. So you can see that the tension is completely off starting here. These are all the same stitches and they're not uniform. You can see one is bigger than the other. This is a really big stitch right here, and then these are really smaller. These are smaller. And then look here. Yes, these are different stitch patterns, but they all look uniform because the tension was the same. Tension is very, very important if you want it to look nice. If you want it to look put together, if you want it to look, you know, uniform, you need to make sure that the circle is the same as your crocheting. So we have learned what tension means. And just for disclaimer, when you're chaining, those are called chains. But once you start going back into the chains with stitch patterns like double, half double, single crochet, these chains here are called stitches now. So like a half double stitch, you'll hear some people say half double stitch, half double crochet, but those mean the same exact thing. But most of the time people will not interchangeably, but they'll call these chains. These are technically chains as well, but because they're part of a stitch, these are called stitches. So the V's, these are chains. These are stitches. They're no longer chains because they're part of a certain stitch pattern. So we have now made our foundation chain. You can see the difference in tension from here and here. So I just taught you guys what a stitch is. These are different stitch patterns. These are the top of the stitch, the V's. So we can check off stitch as well. And then, like I said, with the slip stitch, that is how you tie off. So I'll show you how to tie off, or how most people tie off their projects when they're finished. So say all I wanted to build was this foundation chain. I'll go into the last 2 chains here, 2 or 3 chains with the double crochet. And then I'll tie it off, or finish it off with a slip stitch. I taught you guys what a slip stitch is. So slip stitch again is you go in, yarn over, pull through the chain, and then pull through that loop, and then cut it off, and you chain 1 so that it's secure. I'll show you what it looks like. That chain 1, you don't have to do it, but I highly recommend that you make it as a habit. It makes everything more secure. So see, I'll cut it off here, and I'll pull through, and it's secure. You can't even see the chain 1 because I pulled it. And this is what the foundation chain will look like. So that is how you tie off. You slip stitch and then you chain 1 so it's more secure. Okay, so I'm going to chain again, and then we'll go over the remaining terminology and we'll be done for the video. So I finished my foundation chain. You see the tension is relatively uniform. This is what a foundation chain with uniform tension looks like. This is actually so pretty. I don't know why. I think it's just because I've been doing a lot of more complicated projects. I forgot how pretty a foundation chain looks. This is a foundation chain with double crochets. So I chained 2 and then I double crocheted all along. And for the last chain, I double crocheted, and now I'm going to show you why chaining 2 is important. You'll see. So I'll chain 2 to start off because I'm doing double crochets, and then I'll flip my work. So flip my work to the back, so I can work back into these chains at the top, or the stitches, because they're part of stitches. But if chain is easier for you guys to understand, then I will call them chains. But let me know down in the comments which one is makes more sense to you, because I feel like for a beginner, chain might sound easier because people use stitch for a lot of things. So the chains at the top, I'll just say chains, but just know in videos most people you call it stitches, but I don't want to confuse you guys, so I guess I'll just stick to stitches at the top, the V's at the top. So the chain 2, as you can see, is the same height as the double crochet. So I'll go into the V's, and you see how they're the exact same height. The exact same height. So first I'll show you guys back loop, but along with back loop I'll show you front loop as well. So when you're normally crocheting, you're gonna go through both of the V's. So you see how the V's are made of 2? You're gonna go underneath both of them. So you just go over, and so this is underneath the 2 V's, and do that stitch pattern whichever one you're doing. That's how you would normally, and then you're gonna continue that. So for this V, make sure you can see it. For this V, you're gonna go underneath it. So this hole right here, and do your chain. But for back loop, furthest from you, and the back loop is the loop closest to you. So let me make sure the light looks good. So the loop, when I'm saying the loop, I'm talking about the V. So the V, the one side of the V that is farthest from you is the front loop. So this loop is the front loop, and then this is the back loop. So when someone says double crocheting just the front loop of your stitch, then you're going to just go into the front loop. So instead of going underneath both of them like you normally would, this over here, you're just gonna go into the front loop. You see, you're just gonna go into the front loop, and then do that stitch. And I'll show you what it looks like when I keep just doing front loop. So that's what it looks like, and from the front I'll show you what it looks like from the front, and then from the back I'll show you. You can see the difference because you can see the other side, the back side of the V's are down here now. You can see the back side of the V's, but here you can't. I'll show you what it looks like on a bigger project. So this is a bag that I made using the same yarn, but you can see here there is no front loop, back loop. These are both under the V's. But here, you can see I went through the back loops because the front side of the V is open. And you'll see how it forms a ridge pattern. It forms a ridge pattern when you go into just the front loop or the back loop. So that's the difference you can see. And it's mostly just an artistic choice. You don't have to. But if you do want like a ridge pattern for any project you're doing, you're just going to the front loops only or going to the back loops only. And you'll see it'll form this ridgy pattern. That's what it looks like on the front loop. And then for the back loop, it's the same thing. Instead, you're just gonna go into the loop that faces you, that's closer to you. Go into the V, the one side of the V that's closer to you. And then you'll see now that the one side of the V is now more prominent on the front side. That is the front and back loop. That's how you do a front. When someone says going to the front loop or back loop, that is how you do it. Now, you guys space. So, people say go into the space or make a space. Most of the time they're saying to chain 1 or chain 2 or chain 3, however big the space is. So you can see as we're chaining, we are creating spaces. but these aren't really intentional. These are just the regular spaces that are between the chains. But if you wanted to make an intentional space, we will double crochet, then chain 1, and skip a stitch and go to that next stitch and continue, and then chain 1 again. If you want to just continue make spaces, skip a stitch, because that chain 1 counts as a stitch. This is a stitch. This is a stitch. This is a chain. This is a chain. So you will skip this one and then go into the next one and continue with your stitch pattern. And when you're finished, you will see that you have created spaces, actual spaces that look intentional. So that is how you create spaces. So if they say, so say this is the end. Let's forget about this. Let's say this is the end. I'll chain 2. That will be my turning chain to turn my work over. And then if they say, if someone says, if the instructions say, oh, go back into your spaces or the chain 1 spaces that you made. Remember, we chained 1, so this is the chain 1 space, and do 2 double crochets inside. So you would go actually inside the space and make 2 double crochets. And you can continue on from that. I'll show you guys a project that has spaces. So for my the Hello Kitty pouches, you can see these are spaces. These are chain spaces to create holes so that the actual string can go around it. And if you look, I'll move the string so you can kind of see. You see, there's a chain. With each chain I made, there's a stitch right there, because this is equivalent to that chain that I made. Skipping a stitch is equivalent to the chain I made. So then I'll go to the next stitch, do whatever I need to do, skip a stitch, chain 1, and go to the next, so that it creates this pattern. So that is how you, as what is a space? A space is a chain 1 or a chain 2 space that you make so that it has holes into your project. So we can best check out space. And then I'll go into round. So let's say this was a circle. We're working in a circle. Somehow we got into a circle. The more you chain 1 and keep continuing that circle, that's the 2nd round, 3rd round, 4th round. It's very, very simple how that works, but I'll show you guys rounds. But first, I'll need to show you guys how to make a magic circle. I'll do it again so it makes sense. Yarn over, hold it with your like underneath the ring finger over the pinky finger, and then hook under, pull through the top, and then from here you're going to yarn over and make a chain, and then let go of your fingers, and that is how you make a magic circle. Chain 1, and it should be a magic circle. I'll check just to see. Yeah, I'll do it again. Yarn over 2 times, so it creates like this, and then under the ring over the pinky, hold it tight. Your hook, go underneath both strings, take the tooth and pull it underneath, and then with your working yarn make a chain, and that is your magic circle. So you can slow down and go back so you make a magic circle. And so let's say we're making something, whatever we're making. I'm gonna show you guys what it means to like a round, like what rounds mean. So we're gonna chain 2, because I'm gonna use double crochets, double stitches, and I'm gonna double crochet 5 times into the magic ring. So it's just going into the actual ring, so into the actual circle. The circle, you're going to double crochet into it. It's regular. So that's 5. And then with this short piece of the yarn, this is a really cool part. You're just gonna pull on it to make a circle. And then you can just put this behind, and at the top of your chain 2 that we made, remember we chained 2, so this right here, or you could do the top of the first double crochet, just the first stitch that you see. So this is a stitch right here, you're gonna slip stitch. So again, put in, yarn over, pull through. Oh, let me do this again. In, yarn over, pull through, then pull through. And we made a circle. Now let's say the instructions are to continue this, just keep going around and around. You're going to chain 2, and you're going to go into the next stitch. So this is a stitch right here, 2, you see the V's? V, V, V. So this is the second round. Most of the time you're going to see rounds in amigurumi, when you're making plushies, when you're making little like things. That's where you're going to see a lot of rounds, because you're going to make it like a circle, or I guess a sphere, so you're gonna have to work in rounds. But for most things, you're not really gonna need that. If not most things, but for things that you're not really, you know, if you're not doing amigurumi. And so you'll need like a, oh my gosh, I was out of frame. But yeah, round is just, you keep going around that first thing that you use. So this I just made my second round. This is the first round. See if I can see it better. This is the first round. This is the second round. So that's what a round is. Mostly we're talking about circles, things like that. And then frogging. Frogging, it sounds kind of funny, but frogging is basically just pulling apart your project. So say this is the project that I'm doing, and if I just pull it apart, I've just frogged my project. So say I counted it wrong, or I counted the stitches wrong, I need to frog my project, I need to restart. That is what frogging is. Pretty simple. Now, for a whip is basically just, whip stands for work in progress. It's very kind of self-explanatory. Let's say this is a part of a bigger project I'm using, or I'm not finished with the project, and I leave it, and I start with something else. I start a new project, I leave this just to sit. This would be called a whip. This is a work in progress. I've left it alone for a long time. That is a whip. And then we have 2 more, increase and decrease, and then I'll tell you guys about the different hook sizes, what it means. And yeah. So we'll start with an increase. We'll start with an increase. So an increase is basically what it sounds like. You're just putting more. And let's continue with this foundation chain. So let's say I want to increase in the next stitch. So what is that? What I have to do? First, you're going to have to do that chain, the stitch that you're going to put the stitch inside the chain. Double crochet, half double, whatever chain you're doing. When you're increasing, you're going to put two stitches inside that one chain. So in that same chain, go back with the same stitch that you just did. So I'll show you guys again. This chain right here, this stitch right here, if you're gonna increase, you're gonna put 2 two stitches inside the same chain. So it'll look like this. You'll see it's 2 in 1. We can just increase again into the next chain. So when someone says increase into the next chain, that means put 2 stitches in the next chain. So now we have 2 chains that we've increased 2 times. This first chain we increased in, second chain we increased in. Increase really depends. What does it mean? What does it do? Well, I can show you guys. So for this crop top, let me show you guys. This crop top, in the beginning, so the first row of the ruffle part, because it's ruffly at the bottom, the first row of the ruffle part is increase, just increase stitches in each stitch. So say there was 40 stitches in total. Each 40 stitch had 2 stitches inside. So you can see this is 1 chain, 2 stitches, 1 stitch, 2 stitches inside, all the way across. And that created the ruffle pattern. So a lot of people use increasing when they want to create a ruffle pattern. You'll see that a lot when you're doing things with ruffles or flowers, so that it ruffles. All you need to do increases on one row, and then after was just regular double crochets without increasing, and it followed the pattern of increasing, because you're basically forcing 2 stitches to be in 1 chain, so it's gonna crumple up, which gives it that ruffle effect. That's what it looks like. That is increasing. So we can check off. We now know what increasing means. Now for decreasing. Decreasing happens at the time when you're about to close off something, or you want like a round shape. You want a round shape. So I'll show you how to decrease first. So let me take some of these off. So decreasing is you're not gonna finish your chains. You're not gonna finish your stitches all the way. So let's say I'm making half doubles with all of making half doubles, but we're gonna decrease. So in the next stitch, do a half double, start a half double. But instead of finishing off, so that last step, we're gonna skip that last step forever. Whatever stitch it is, you're gonna skip that last step, and you're gonna go into the next chain like you're starting another half double. So yarn over, go into the next chain, yarn over again, and then pull through all the hooks, all the hoops. And that you have just decreased. And you can literally tell that it has decreased because it's went down. It's like an arch. It's like an arc. It's going down. You can decrease again. So again, half double, start a half double, skip the last step, go into the next chain like you're starting another half double again, yarn over it, and finish off everything and pull through all the loops. And now you can see that it's kind of going down, or you can see it's kind of like it's pulling it down because we're decreasing. That is how you decrease. For the double crochet, you decrease, start a double crochet into the next chain, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, but don't pull through the last 2 loops. Start another, like you're starting another double crochet, and then pull through all loops, if I'm not mistaken. But if I am, I'll comment down below. I'll leave a pinned comment on how to actually do it. But that's basically how you decrease. You're just gonna skip a part, the last part, and then start another chain, and then finish everything off. That is how you decrease. So we have finished off Crochet 101. I'll go over what the different chains, what the different hooks mean, and we'll be done. Okay, so when you're crocheting, you'll have many different hooks you can choose from. You'll see different patterns that will require, oh, do this hook, type of hook, choose this type of hook. This hook is the best. Like, but as a beginner, you might not know what exactly does that mean. So here are a couple different hooks that I have. These are different sizes. A couple of the same sizes, but I'll show you what it looks like when you're crocheting with different hook sizes and what that means. So hook sizes is how big you want your stitches. If you're working with bigger yarn, you're gonna need a bigger hook so that it can actually fit on the yarn, on the hook. But if you're working with smaller yarn, like amigurumi, most amigurumi artists use very, very small hooks, like so. This is a very, very small hook. I don't really use it because I don't really do amigurumi. But there's some glue on there because I use it for something else. But most amigurumi artists use these small hooks because that's how small the stitches are with amigurumi. So it's very hard to do amigurumi. It's very time consuming because everything's super small, everything's super tight, everything's super tight. So let's say I'm using a 5.5. I'll just do a couple double crochets in 5.5, and then I'll switch and you'll see the difference in stitches. So I made these 3 double crochets, 5.5. Now I'll use 6.5. Not too big of a difference. But then I'll use a 9mm one. See how different it looks. They kind of look the same. It's not like that big of a difference, especially as I'm working on just the foundation chain now. But the more like you do a project, you'll see the difference. Like for example, the Hello Kitty pouch, I used the bigger hook size than recommended, so it turned out bigger. But right now it might not look like there's much of a difference, but there is a difference with what the hook size that you're using. So I'll use a 4.25 and show you what it looks like with the 4.25. You can always see the difference, at least right now. It's a very slight difference, and honestly I'm not too big on like, oh, use this specific hook size, use specific hook size. But if you are meticulous, especially if you're doing, again, amigurumi, or you're doing certain like projects that need to be a certain size, I would recommend using the size that is recommended, because even a different hook might change like completely the proportions of the project. So that is what different hooks do. They look similar, but the more you keep going, you'll see it's a difference. But I'm not the type of person to really stress too much on different sizes unless you have a certain proportion that you're specifically looking for. And as well as when it comes to projects that are specifically made or are more tailored for somebody, like a custom order of a shirt or a custom order of a crop top, then you will need to use a hook that is proportionate to the proportion that you have laid out. So say you have a crop top, and for all these sizes you'll use this amount of stitches. If you're using a 5.5, but then for another order you're using 9.5, the proportions would be completely different. Also with the different type of yarn, I tried to make a crop top with fluffy yarn using the same proportions that I use with acrylic yarn, and it came out much smaller because fluffy yarn is a lot more thinner. So you're gonna have to know fluffy yarn, which hook will be more similar to the proportions that I have for acrylic yarn. But that's more intermediate things that you have to worry about. But just for basics, it doesn't really matter too much what type of hooks you use, unless you have a specific type of proportion that you're looking for. But if you're a beginner, that probably really isn't, you know, the focus. Those are the basic terminologies. We've went through basic terminologies. We've learned what a chain stitch, how to increase, how to decrease, what a slip knot is, what tension is and how it affects your project, and like your chains, as well as how to tie off, turning chain, back loops, foundation chain, frogging, round, space, and whips. Also different stitches. I hope this was very helpful. I hope you learned something. If you want me to make another video, or if you want more specifics, if you have any specific questions, comment them down below and I will reply to them. I always reply to all my comments. Thank you guys for watching. I hope I was of help. And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.